my sister-in-law whispered in her son's ear, and he threw the only gift my daughter had ever given me into the pool in front of everyone. At that moment, I chose silence, viewing it as a low-level provocation not worth the energy. But my silence wasn't forgiveness. It was observation. Everything changed when I returned from a mission. I no longer recognized my own daughter. The light in her eyes was gone, replaced by fear and a bruise on her cheek. They made a fundamental mistake. They thought this was a family argument. They didn't understand that, to me, this was a battlefield, and I never enter a battle without a flawless plan of attack. The question is, when someone tries to extinguish your child's light, do you have the right to extinguish their whole world? My name is Clara. I'm a captain in the U.S. Army, stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord, just outside of Tacoma. My job demands precision, discipline, and a cool head. So does my life, especially as a single mother. Everything I do for my daughter, Lily. Ironically, my biggest problem isn't on the training grounds or on overseas missions, but within my own family, specifically, my brother Ethan's family. Ethan is a good man, but good in the sense that he never had a backbone, especially not when his wife Amber was around. Amber, my sister-in-law, was another matter entirely. She never confronted me directly. Instead, she used words like poison-tipped darts. When I was promoted, she'd smile and say, "It must be nice to be a soldier, getting to travel all the time." But her eyes would flick toward Lily, implying I was a neglectful mother. When I bought a new car, she'd remark, "The pay must be good. Ethan isn't so lucky." Every sentence she uttered came with a faint smile, as if to remind me that I was good for nothing but sending money. The envy I could ignore, the entitlement I could not. They lived in an apartment in Tacoma that I had been paying the rent for over the past 3 years. Every month, an automatic payment was transferred from my account. Silent, precise, without a word of complaint. I didn't do it for Ethan or Amber. I did it for their son, Caleb. I wanted him to have a stable home, something his parents' lack of responsibility could hardly guarantee. I saw it as an investment in family peace, a calculated operation, a controllable variable. But Amber never saw it as a sacrifice. She saw the money I sent as an obligation, and I became a shadow in her life, simultaneously looked down upon and charged for the privilege of being the successful sister. I saw it all clearly, but I remained silent. Sometimes, silence is the only way to keep the peace. Except my silence didn't mean I wasn't keeping score. I had just returned from a long training deployment. The only thing I wanted was a quiet evening with family, so I organized a small birthday party. Cake, candles, a few simple dishes. I wasn't asking for much, just a bit of warmth for Lily. She had missed me terribly, and I wanted her to see that no matter how far I went, family was always here. Ethan and Amber arrived late, as usual. And as usual, their son Caleb shot out of the car like a bullet, screaming and running laps around the yard. Amber just smirked, her expression suggesting she was watching an amusing play directed by her own son. Ethan just offered a weak smile that looked more tired than happy. That's what a happy child looked like. An atmosphere of peace rarely existed when Amber was present. Caleb ran circles around the dining table, popping balloons and spilling soda on the tablecloth. Amber didn't say a word to him. Instead, she leaned back in her chair and scoffed. Kids will be kids. You have to let them be free. That's how they stay happy, not like some people who are so strict. I heard her, but I didn't respond. I was used to that tone. I tried to ignore it. I focused on Lily. She pulled my hand, eagerly handing me a small, wrapped box. Inside was a leather wallet. It wasn't a designer brand, but a small wallet Lily had stitched herself, every clumsy stitch filled with love. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. It was all I needed. But that peace lasted only a few seconds. Caleb rushed over, snatching the wallet from my hands before I could react. He sprinted toward the pool. He stopped at the edge, turned to look directly at me, and screamed. His voice was shrill, every word a dagger. "Mom says you don't deserve nice things because you're always abandoning your daughter." Then he threw it into the water. A dead silence fell over the yard. Then, Amber burst out laughing, a loud, triumphant laugh, completely unconcealed. Ethan froze, his eyes glued to the ground as if he wished he could disappear. My anger didn't flare up. It turned to ice. I looked at the child, panting with excitement, then at the woman gloating in her victory. I understood immediately. The boy was just a child, a tool. The one who poisoned him was the problem. I didn't say a word. I calmly walked to the pool and fished out the soaking wallet. I turned back, pulled a stunned Lily into my arms, and whispered, "It's okay, sweetie. Let's go inside." That night, I could have logged into my bank account. I could have ended everything with a few clicks. But I didn't. In warfare, you don't waste ammunition on a warning shot. You observe, you document, and you wait. This wasn't the main assault. This was just reconnaissance from the enemy. I decided to let it go. For now. 2 weeks after the incident at the pool, the orders came unexpectedly. Deployment to a base in Europe, a humanitarian aid mission. Duration, 3 weeks. Non-negotiable. The first thing I did wasn't pack my gear. It was find childcare for Lily. All my plans collapsed. My parents were on a year-planned vacation. My best friend, Zoe, was helpless. Her mother had just had surgery. Every door was closed. There was only one option left, an option I didn't want to consider. The call to Ethan went exactly as I'd predicted. He hemmed and hawed, and then I heard whispering on the other end. A moment later, Amber's voice came on the line, sickeningly sweet. "Oh, Clara," I heard. "Poor little Lily." I got straight to the point. "I need someone to watch Lily for 3 weeks. I'll cover all expenses plus extra." There was a pause on the line. I could picture the smug smile spreading across her face. She had what she wanted, a chance to see me humbled. "Oh, don't be silly, your family, we're happy to help. Don't worry about money," she said, but the way she emphasized the word money said the exact opposite. I didn't see this as a favor. I saw it as a transaction. Before I left, I drove to their house. I handed Amber an envelope of cash enough to cover Lily's expenses for 3 months, not 3 weeks, along with my credit card for emergencies. "This is so you can get things for the kids, for Caleb too," I said, my voice even. "Make sure they don't need anything." I told myself this wasn't just a transaction. It was an olive branch, a chance to reset the relationship. Amber was more cheerful than usual, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Don't you worry about a thing. She'll be like one of my own." I heard her, but I didn't entirely believe her. Still, I let the transaction proceed. Deep down, I wanted to believe this was a chance to mend things after that humiliating birthday night. When I hugged Lily goodbye, she whispered in my ear, "Come home soon, Mommy." "Always, my angel," I replied, fighting back the sense of unease rising in my chest. I had entrusted my most valuable asset to someone I knew was unreliable. It was a calculated risk. Or so I thought. I left with a sliver of hope that Amber would keep her word, but what happened next was far from it. To Amber, Lily wasn't a guest. She became a shadow, a young, unpaid maid she could order around at will. I completed my mission ahead of schedule. Instead of calling, I decided to head straight to my brother's house. I wanted to surprise my daughter. I drove directly from the airport to Ethan's. The house was strangely quiet. I used my spare key to let myself in. The first thing I saw wasn't Lily's laughter, but her on her hands and knees, scrubbing the kitchen floor, alone. Her small hands struggled with an oversized rag, the back of her shirt soaked with sweat. She was thinner, and there was a small bruise on her cheek. From the living room, I heard the sound of the TV and muffled giggles. Amber and Caleb were on the sofa, feet propped up on the coffee table, eyes glued to the screen. An empty pizza box lay on the floor. My anger was no longer ice. It was a cold fire silently consuming everything, but my face remained a mask of calm. Under the table, my hand clenched into a fist, my nails digging into my palm hard enough to leave red crescents. Lily looked up, and her eyes widened when she saw me. She started to cry out, but then she glanced nervously toward the living room. That single action told me everything. Amber finally noticed me. She jumped, fumbling to turn off the TV. "Oh, Clara, you're back. Why didn't you call first?" Her smile was strained and tense. I didn't answer her. I walked over and knelt beside Lily, gently taking the rag from her hands. "Are you done, my little soldier?" I asked, my voice perfectly level. Lily nodded slightly, her eyes welling up with tears. Good. Now go pack your things. We're going home. I stood up and turned to face Amber. My eyes swept over the bruise on my daughter's cheek one more time. The kid's getting a little rough, Amber? Amber stammered. Well, she fell. You know how kids are. Right, I said, my voice like steel. Kids. I didn't need to say more. No accusations, no arguments. The battle wouldn't be fought here, not now. It would be fought on a different field. A field of my choosing, and by my rules. As Lily and I walked out the door, I didn't look back. The operation had officially begun. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my home office, the cold light of the laptop screen illuminating my face. Lily was fast asleep after devouring a large bowl of noodles and telling me everything in a broken voice about how she had to sleep on the sofa because Amber said Caleb needed his space. About how she had to eat sandwiches for dinner while they ordered takeout. About how the bruise was from Caleb pushing her down, and Amber had just said, well, you should have stayed out of his way. Lily was forced to do all the housework, cleaning Caleb's room. When the family ate fresh food, she was only served leftovers. The money I sent for her care was turned into new dresses and bags for Amber. Worst of all were the words she constantly drilled into Lily's head. Your mom doesn't love you. She only loves her job. Or, see? You're better off with us than being abandoned by your mother. The psychological warfare was more venomous than any physical wound. Each word from my daughter didn't make me angrier. It only made my objective clearer. I opened my web browser and logged into my bank account. With surgical precision, I went to work. First, the mobile banking app. I navigated to recurring payments. The $1,800 rent payment for the Tacoma apartment, scheduled to transfer the day after tomorrow. I hit cancel. A confirmation box popped up. I didn't hesitate. Next, the auto finance website. The SUV Ethan drove. The $550 monthly payment was also covered by me. I removed my credit card information from the account and canceled the auto pay. The next payment was due in 48 hours. Finally, the online portal for Northwood Private Academy, where Caleb was enrolled. A school Amber constantly bragged about, with a tuition I, of course, paid. I logged into the parent account, went to payment management, and deleted my payment method. The deadline for the next semester's tuition was the end of the week. It was all done in under 10 minutes. No emotion registered, only the cold satisfaction of a completed mission. I wasn't destroying their lives. I was simply pulling the plug on the life support system I'd been providing. I shut down the computer. The house was silent. This wasn't revenge. This was a strategic realignment. They had crossed the line, and now they would face the consequences of operating in unsecured territory. The clock had started. All I had to do was wait. 48 hours later, the first call came. From Ethan. I was in the grocery store with Lily, picking out cereal. I glanced at the vibrating screen, then silenced it and went back to shopping. Lily deserved my undivided attention. 5 minutes later, a text message appeared. Clara, my car is gone. Do you know anything? I didn't reply. An hour later, back at home, he called again. This time I answered, putting the phone on speaker and setting it on the kitchen counter. What the hell is going on, Clara? Ethan's voice was frantic. The finance company just called. They said the payment was late and they repossessed the car. I swear I saw you set up the auto pay. Oh, I said evenly. Must be some kind of system error. You should call them and sort it out. Sort it out? Where am I supposed to get $550 right now? That's a good question, Ethan, I said and hung up. The silence lasted until the next day. I assumed they were scrambling. But then, the second bomb dropped. Friday morning, my phone rang again. Amber. Her voice was shrill, barely containing her rage. Clara, the landlord just called. The rent hasn't been paid. What is this? Really? I replied, feigning surprise. Must be an issue with my card. So what are you going to do about it? We're about to be evicted. I'm not going to do anything, I said. It's your apartment. But you always pay it, she shrieked. I did, I said. Now I don't. The other end of the line went silent. I could hear her ragged breathing. What? What the hell are you doing? I'm teaching you a lesson about accountability. My daughter had a bruise on her cheek in your house. Did you think I would let that go? She sputtered. It was just an accident. There are no accidents here, Amber. Only actions and consequences. And you are experiencing the consequences. Good luck with your landlord. I hung up. I knew they still didn't get it. They thought this was just a temper tantrum. They didn't know that the third, decisive strike had yet to land. That afternoon, as I was driving Lily home from school, I saw a police car parked in front of my house. I wasn't surprised. I just didn't expect it so soon. I parked across the street and killed the engine. I turned to Lily, who was looking at the police car with worried eyes. "Stay in the car and lock the doors," I said calmly. "I'll be right back." I got out and walked coolly across the street. The two officers, a man and a woman, turned as I approached. "Good afternoon, officers. Can I help you?" The male officer spoke. "Ma'am, we received a call for a wellness check from a woman named Amber. She said she's your sister-in-law and was worried about her niece." I almost laughed. An amateur, predictable move. "I'm Captain Clara," I said, my voice clear and steady. "And that's my daughter, Lily, in the car. We just got home from school. Amber is my sister-in-law, yes. She has reason to be worried, but not about Lily." I looked the officer directly in the eye. "My brother's family is having some financial difficulties, very sudden ones. I believe this call is related to that." I didn't need to explain further. A flicker of weariness crossed their professional faces. They'd seen this 100 times. A family dispute turned into a waste of police resources. "Would you mind if we had a quick word with the girl?" the female officer asked, her tone softening. "Not at all," I replied, and gestured for Lily to roll down her window. "Lily, these officers just want to ask if you're okay." Lily nodded. "I'm okay. My mom just bought me my favorite ice cream." That was enough. The officers exchanged a brief glance. They thanked me for my time, jotted something in their notebooks, and left. I knew this wasn't over. When one tactic fails, the desperate become more reckless. And I was right. The next morning, as I was walking Lily to the car for school, I saw it. A long, deep scratch running the entire length of the passenger side. It wasn't an accident. It was carved by a hand trembling with rage, a deliberate act of vandalism. I didn't feel anger. I felt satisfaction. They had made a rookie mistake. They had turned a personal conflict into a police matter. I took out my phone and calmly photographed the damage from every angle. After dropping Lily at school, I drove straight to the police station. I filed a report for destruction of property, making sure to include the case number from yesterday's baseless wellness check to establish a pattern of harassment. On the way home, I ordered a home security system online, one that would monitor every inch of my property. Amber had given me what I needed, physical evidence, and she still had no idea that the tuition bill for Northwood Academy was hanging over their heads like a death sentence. The game had been escalated, and I have always excelled at escalating strategy. The security system was installed the next day. 4 wide-angle, high-definition cameras covering every approach to my house. I considered it establishing a defensive perimeter. 2 days later, Northwood Academy called Ethan. I knew because he left me 17 missed calls and a 3-minute voicemail, a rambling mess of begging and cursing. Caleb was officially suspended until the tuition was paid. Amber's final gambit had failed, and that's when she completely lost control. That night, around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the front porch camera. I opened the app. Amber. She was standing there, her face twisted in rage under the security light. She was holding an egg. She threw it at my front door, then another and another. I did nothing. I just watched, the system recording everything. But she didn't stop there. After she ran out of eggs, she walked over to my car. I saw her pull out something shiny and metallic, a key. The app allowed me to speak through the camera's speaker. I waited until her hand was raised, ready to carve a second line into the door. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Amber." My voice boomed, clear and cold in the dead of night. She jumped, dropping the key. She looked around wildly, then realized the voice was coming from the camera pointed directly at her. Your entire performance, from throwing eggs to this second attempt at vandalism, has been recorded in 4 Kelvin's resolution, I continued. I imagine this footage, along with the prior police report, will make for some interesting evidence for the Tacoma PD. Amber's face went white. The rage was replaced by pure abject fear. And by the way, I added, I've also sent a copy of Lily's recorded testimony about how you treated her to my lawyer. You know, just in case. It was a lie. I didn't have a lawyer. But she didn't know that. Amber stood frozen for a few seconds. Then she turned and ran. The next morning, I sent the entire video file to the detective handling my case. I didn't have to press the issue. The evidence was undeniable. I don't know exactly what happened after that. I heard through my mother that Amber faced charges for property destruction and harassment. Ethan had to sell the car after paying to get it out of impound to cover the fines and rent a much cheaper apartment. Caleb had to transfer to a public school. They never contacted me again. I deleted their numbers. All automatic payments had long been canceled. A few weeks later, on a weekend morning, Lily and I were washing my car. As we wiped down the long scar on the passenger side, Lily looked up at me. "Mommy, are we going to fix this?" I looked at the scratch, a reminder of a battle fought. "No, sweetie," I said. "We're going to keep it. To remind us that sometimes scars are proof that we fought for what was right and that we won."